Tried to make it out alive, but I just didn't know how. Thought that I could buy some time until I'm safe and sound, so I could see you and me trying to make a living out of something we could choose to. One sec.
Has this ever happened to you? You'd like to perform one of your songs live using a looper, but the structure of the song would require constantly pressing specific foot switches and switching back and forth between pedals? More flexible loop stations exist, but they cost a lot of money and are not easily transportable. Well, don't worry, there is a solution.
There is?
Indeed. Introducing Laszlo, the library for algorithmic songwriting and zigzag looping operations. With Laszlo, you have access to a desktop app in which you can define the structure of your song ahead of playing it, with no limit to its complexity. Once you're done, you can export it onto the Laszlo pedal and take your songs anywhere. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. So, today I'd like to give a little showcase of the app/library/pedal that I've been developing over the past 2 months for the final project of my master's degree in music at the University of the West of Scotland. So this is one of those projects that started out as wanting to scratch an itch, so to say. Basically, I've always wanted a specific type of looper, of looping pedal, and I was never quite able to find what I was looking for. The problem that I see with most looper pedals is how inflexible they are. You know, you can record a loop, obviously you can overdub, probably have an undo function as well, but then most of the time that's about it. And I've used loopers a lot in like singer-songwriter live kind of settings, and I've always found that to be kind of limiting, because it essentially restricts you to a relatively repetitive kind of song structure. So what if you wanted to be able to do something more complicated with it? Suppose, for example, you've got something like, okay, so when I press the foot switch, I wanted to start recording, and then when I press it again, I wanted to stop recording, but store it for later, don't play it back just yet. But when you do play it back, pitch it an octave down, and then I'll overdub, but what I'm overdubbing, pitch that an octave up, and then afterwards take only the second half of the recording, and, you know, stuff like that, of any degree of complexity. So my thought process was, could I create a pedal with an accompanying app in which I could define the structure of the song that I'm playing in advance, including all those instructions for what the foot switch should do on each press. And then when I'm performing it, firstly, I wouldn't be limited in terms of song structure complexity, and secondly, I wouldn't have to coordinate operating like 5 different pedals. So that is what I set out to do and what I'm going to show you today. Now, this project is not yet at a stage where all of the functionality that I imagined is fully realized, but, you know, it's a working prototype. So first off, let's have a look at the app. So here we can see the app that I created for this, the graphical user interface. Now, I tried my best to make this similar to most digital audio workstations so that it would be intuitive for most people. So, you know, you've got your tracks, and then each track has a number of snippets. Let's click right here to create a new snippet. I'm going to call this intro. And now there's a number of parameters that I can manipulate here. First off, I can choose which track it's on. I could create a new track as well if I like. I can choose the input source. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it at the default, which is the live input coming into the pedal or the audio interface or whatever we're using. And then I can choose the start and the duration of the snippet. So boot event simply means that I want it to start right when the program starts. And duration, I'm going to choose until next button press event. So this snippet will record up until I press the foot switch on the pedal. So let's save this, and there it is. Now, perhaps that didn't quite illustrate just yet what all these parameters are capable of, what we can do with this, but I think it becomes clearer when we simply add another snippet. I'm going to call this first verse, I don't know, leave it on the same track. Leave the source at live input as well. And then, for example, I'm going to link a certain attribute of this to another snippet. So, for example, I'd like to say that this is supposed to start when this first snippet that we created ends. So here I'm going to choose that the start event should be the end of another snippet. Now I can choose which one, pick this one, and I'd like it to go until the second time that we press the button. So I'll save this, and there we have it. And as you can see, it automatically created these little dashed vertical lines which signify the individual presses of the foot switch or the button. So obviously, if you get into this, there should be a lot that you can do with this. And just to illustrate, I have prepared a little example file, which I'm going to open. There we go. I spent way too long on that loading animation. You're very welcome. So this would be an example of a somewhat more complicated song structure. Still not like absurdly complicated, but it showcases what this program can do. So we've got 3 tracks here: rhythm guitar, bass, and lead guitar. And then on the one hand, we've got the regular kinds of snippets, such as this one, which is just monitoring the live input and nothing else really. And then we've got snippets such as these ones, the ones that are a bit darker in color. Now, when they're a bit darker in color, that means that they are clones of another snippet. And if I click on this one, for example, then it will highlight for me which snippet this one is a clone of. And clone means that it doesn't take as input just the live input coming into the pedal, but rather it duplicates the sound that was recorded with another snippet. In this case, the one called chorus bass here. And we can also see which snippets have clones because they all have this little recording indicator here, the little circle. So we can see, for example, that this snippet called chorus guitar also has one or more clones, and when we click on it, we can see it is duplicated in this place and in this place. So I hope that illustrates what you can do with this. It should be able to do relatively complicated things, and I'd like to be able to add more functionality to this as well. For example, to be able to play pre-recorded audio files and things like that. And here we have the pedal. So as you can see pretty immediately, this is quite obviously still at a rather rudimentary stage. It's more of a proof of concept at the moment. This is just some box that I had lying around, and I filled this up with a bunch of electronics. So let's have a look inside. Okay, now if you're somebody who properly knows electronics, then you'll probably be doing something anywhere between shaking your head and recoiling in fear at the sight of this, because I'm not particularly experienced at all with electronics, and I basically started learning electronics for this project. But the thing is that it works, at least it does what I needed to do. So what's in here is, first of all, the heart of the entire thing is this little thing. A Raspberry Pi 0W. So this is a single board computer. We have 2 things coming in here. First of all, this thing is the power connection. And then right here, using a USB OTG cable, we connect it to one of those cheap little USB audio interfaces. And that allows us to have the audio inputs and outputs coming in. At some point I'd like to add proper jack sockets to this so that I can have 1/4 inch signals coming in. At the moment it's restricted to just aux cables coming out from the sides of the box. Now here we have the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi, which connect to the breadboard. So as you can see, I haven't even soldered it yet. It's all still at the breadboard stage. And there are only 2 little peripheral things that we have connected here. So first off, we have the LED, which we could see here. I just realized one of those little things here came loose. I should probably fix that later. So that LED lights up whenever a snippet is in the stage of being recorded. And then most importantly, of course, we have the foot switch, which we have connected to here just as any regular foot switch. So I would say that you can gather all these parts for, I think I paid about £50, but that's because I had to learn first which parts I need to use. So if you're thrifty and if you know what you're doing, then you could probably get all of this stuff for relatively cheap. Woman, oh woman, do you know what you do to me?
Woman, oh woman, you know how much time I spend waiting for the moment I see you again. But my head starts spinning and the air starts getting thinner when I think of how little time we've left. Maybe it's best if we just say that it might have worked, but life got in the way. So let's call it off while we still can. Oh, woman, lover, oh lover, don't I wish there was an easy way? Don't I wish that I could simply say it's alright, I'll stay here with you. But life in reality can be a rather fickle beast sometimes. It comes as no surprise. It's got different plans. But my head's still spinning and the air's still getting thinner when I think of how little time we left. Maybe it's best if we just say that it might have worked, but life got in the way. So let's call it off while we still can. Oh, woman, I just don't know if the problem is that we're moving too fast or are we moving too slowly. Feels like I'm dragged along a highway and I can't see a light on the end of the road. Still spinning and the air's still getting thinner when I think of how little time we've left. Can we resort to being fools than just succumbing to the fact that life is cruel? Maybe someday in a couple years' time we will look back and accept that love is blind. But just until then, please let us pretend. Please